Hey everybody, it's Randy Goodman here from Harvey Callis Real Estate, and I am here with Sunil Godse, who is the CEO of Intuitionology, and I can't wait to hear about it. So thanks, Sunil, for being here with me today.
Thank you for this opportunity. Look forward to it. Looking forward to speaking to your the audience members that are listening in and watching in.
Well, I'm excited for them to hear you. And for those who are hanging around on Facebook right now, you probably just heard on a live Sunil's daughter who's making an impact on this world. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yes, yes. I think she's going to beat me on podcast. Yes, she's starting to encroach my viewers. So
There you go. So, is this something like that you push your kids towards giving back, or
no, this with everything with intuition, it's got to come from within, and this is something that she really wanted to do. She's always been like that ever since she was about 2 years old, driving around looking outside, and she's always said, yeah, I want to do something for people. And so for me, I just encourage the question, so what is it? Because it's not really I mean, I can guide her in a certain way, but as everybody, intuition is very individualistic. So it really came to her, and it was a pristine moment. It was last year. We were sitting around. She had seen some people who had painted with no arms in India. It triggered her to say, wow, I want to help people with disabilities and illnesses. 6 months later, she just said, I got the idea. And so we flushed it out, but it was her idea, right? And so
wow.
it really it's come from within, so wholeheartedly.
I love that. I love that. And it must feel really good as a parent that your kid has decided to do something and, really helping other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the impact that she's had on people, and I think she downplays a lot of it because she's pretty humble in what she does. But I'll just give you a very quick story. We had somebody who was there who had cerebral palsy, and this is at the pop-up event she had, and his arm was shaking. And when he started to paint, he said, "Watch this," and his arm stopped shaking, and he says, "This is what this event is doing for me." And it just opens up, and he started getting to opening up the stuff in his brains and stuff like that. So it's going above a bit more beyond than what she really kind of thinks she's impacting people. So, and that's great because they go
Right.
home with a really memorable experience.
Well, I love that. And it just shows that, you're a good parent
Thank
and
you.
you're really, helping to guide you, even if you don't think it was you, it's obviously it's her. She's a wonderful person. And if somebody didn't have that in their heart, they wouldn't want to do it or even
Yeah.
think of it. But, it also comes from being around good people and emulating that behavior. So clearly, you must be somebody who likes to give back as well,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do. Yes.
right? And maybe later you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yep.
So I love that. So tell us what you do. What's intuitionology?
So intuition is a project that I started, and the thing with intuition, we'll get into kind of why I did it, but intuition is very, very complex. It's a subconscious tool that we have that we're all born with, and it's very, very complex. And the reason why people ignore their intuition is because they simply don't understand how complex it is. It's just like learning how to drive a car, right? If you drive a car, you drive it. You just know you put in the keys, or now it's push button, and you drive, and you don't often look under the hood, but under the hood is some very complex things happening. That's exactly how your intuition is. So my role is to get you to, and intuition is also very specific. So my role is to get you through the Intuitionology project is to get you to understand how your specific intuitivity works. And when you understand that, then you're in tune with the signals that it comes, and you're able to battle intuitive hurdles that stop you from listening to the signals. And when you do, then you start to make decision after decision after decision that's right, and it moves you further and further to a path of success in every area of your life.
I love that. And I've always believed in my intuition. Like if I'm feeling it, then I'm going for it. If I'm feeling someone's not right, I'm getting away. Like I really trust my intuition.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of people don't. They question themselves. They question what they're feeling. They feel that it's not right or they feel that it is right. And they either don't go towards it or away from it based on what they're feeling. They do the opposite.
Right.
And I think it's really important to trust your gut, so to speak,
Yep.
and go with what you know and feel is right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. 100%.
So is this something like that you always wanted? Like, did you study this in school? Like, you know, like,
No.
how did
So I
this
mean,
come about?
so for me, it's really kind of reflecting back, and the majority of like the first things that you have to do is you really look back to really kind of what were those times where you trusted intuition, and when you ignored intuition. And so when I look back at those times, then I started educating myself on, okay, great when I trusted it, but it was more important because when I didn't trust it, I landed into some hot water with some of the experiences that I had. And it's when I look back at those experiences, that's when I said, okay, so then why am I ignoring my intuition? And then consequently, I had written my first book, Fail Fast, Succeed Faster. And when I used to speak on stages around the world on that, they used to ask me, what's the one thing that entrepreneurs can do that'll make them successful? And at that point in time, I was just saying, well, there's a whole reason why I interviewed close to 300 people and I have 75 stories in the book, because there really isn't one thing. But then when I went back to the podcast interviews that I did, it was clear that about 80 to 90% of them were using some form of thing where they ignored their gut, or they knew what they were doing, but they didn't do it. So it was like, wow, there's a light bulb moment. Why are these people ignoring this thing called intuition? And then that prompted my second book called Gut. And I started going, talking about that worldwide. And then the one question I kept getting is, now I understand your book tells me about what intuition is, but how do we apply it? And that started the Intuitionology project to actually take people through, okay, here we go. Here's intuition. This is how you apply it, given all the components of it. And that's what I do through my coursework and my coaching.
Well, so you mentioned that you're speaking all over the world. What countries have you spoken in?
I've been to Dubai. I've been to India. I've been to Stockholm. I've been to the States, and then Canada.
Wow, I love it. I love it. And you probably get a lot of questions of how did you get those speaking gigs, right? For all those people.
Yeah, well, oftentimes it's somebody who's seen a post or who know me personally. And it's really wonderful that when I go to these speaking gigs, so for example, when I was in Stockholm, and I was speaking to a number of accountants there. And so a lot of people may say, well, how do accountants talk about intuition? Well, a buddy of mine is a partner at Deloitte, and he definitely used intuition to get out of a deal, even though the I's were dotted, T's were crossed. He knew something was going on, and the president was actually undergoing illegal transactions. Now, from a paper perspective, he couldn't prove that, but he delayed it so much that it happened. So when I was in Stockholm, I had an accountant that come up, and she had just right after I had spoken, and she was there to buy both my books, and she told me a story of how she was in a beautiful marriage, and somehow her intuition was saying that her husband was going to take money from her at no reason whatsoever, and she had this through a dream, which was her intuitive signal. She decided to investigate, and sure enough, he was siphoning money from their bank accounts. And she said he was about 1 or 2 weeks away from leaving her and her 2 kids on the streets before she stopped it.
Wow.
So these are great stories that I get from people that
listen to your intuition.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, how much more proof positive do you need like things like that?
Wow. Yeah, that's very powerful. Very powerful. And it's true. Like, I think, when people are really not listening to themselves, or not listening to those gut feelings,
Right.
Intuition, gut feeling, whatever words you guys like to use for it. Everybody uses different ways of expressing it, the universe or energy or whatever, it's trusting it. It's believing that it's telling you something and you need to listen, right? Yeah. And so what did you do before? Like, were you doing other things and then you decided you're going to make a shift to this, or
Yeah. So I actually graduated as a civil engineer, and I was working for 3 years as an engineer, and I knew I got into it for the wrong reasons. I'm South Asian, so it was doctor, lawyer, engineer. I picked door number 3.
Love it.
I knew I didn't want to do an engineer. It came up to 3 years, and I either had to become a fully fledged professional engineer with a designation or not. And I decided not to. And all the time, my intuition was saying, this is not what you wanted to do. I left it at the same time I was running a restaurant part-time, and I was making 5 times more with the restaurant as an investor. than I was working full-time as an engineer.
Wow.
So that started my entrepreneurship journey. And I took 5 or 6 ventures to about 20 millions in revenue. Then I started consulting.
For you. Okay.
And then after consulting, helped a number of companies. Then I came up with my first book, my second book, and then Intuitionology came up. And with Intuitionology, it was really kind of the crux of looking back was and understanding it from a scientific perspective, because if I'm writing a book for the masses, I need some kind of proof. And the whole thing that I do with Intuitionology is I don't shove a definition down your throat. So you believe however you want to believe intuition works for you. If it is spiritual, great. If it is a gut feeling, great. If you think it's a voice, whatever it is for you, fantastic. I'm just here to say that you have it and use it. So when I reflected back to the 3 times that I ignored my intuitions, which were devastating, the one was the career. The second one was a client who didn't pay me. I ended up being penniless, came back from the States at a time I was about to be married. And the third time is that a good friend reached out to me to try and get some advice. I said, my gut was saying meet with her that afternoon. I said, let's wait a couple of days. The very next day, she was shot and killed.
Oh my God.
And so when I'm thinking about, okay, why? Like I had these signals that were talking to me, and I really needed to understand what intuition was all about. And then when I dove into the research, that's when I saw, wow, this is actually pretty complex, and people really don't understand what it's about. So we can talk about a gut feeling, for example. That's very, very common, but a gut feeling for you could be at a professional situation, a decision. Mine could be personal, or my gut feeling may come because I've ignored the first 2 signals. So I'm already down 2 bad decisions because I'm waiting for this gut feeling. Well, it wasn't the gut feeling I should have been listening to. It should have been the whisper at the start, or the anxiousness, right? And so this is where it's very specific. And so I get people to really get in tune with their signals, and then what the right decision is to make.
Wow. So it's pretty powerful. And you decided to really help people, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And travel the world doing it.
Yeah. And I had 2 film crews, over 10,000 hours looking at research, over 1,000 people I've interviewed. And with my courses, I've had over 54,000 people through the courses now. And lives have just simply been changed. And my purpose is to change as many lives as I can, 1 person at a time. And it's happening.
I love it. Well, good for you for taking that on and making it a world passion of yours.
Oh, thank you.
So, who would be the right person? Like, how do you first tell us, how do you actually help people? And then I want to know, like, what does the person look like? What are they thinking? What's happening in their life where they should think, okay, I need to reach out to Sunil?
Right. So anybody who's ever been stuck in anything in the past. So a lot of times the problem is sometimes we get to a situation where we're really, really down and out. And so we have this intuitive ability, but we don't want to trust it. And the only time that in some cases we reach out to people for help is when we're at the rock bottom and we need to come up, because there's only one way to get up. So what I've been able to do with those people coming to me is short circuit that journey. So when they're really stuck and they need an answer, and they really need to look within, or they believe that what I'm saying is going to help them, that's when they reach out to me. So people who've had relationship issues, where they want to look at a new career, whether they're looking to get healthier, some stop smoking, whether they're just confused in businesses, if they're looking to establish a better culture, maybe their hiring practices are wrong. How come management's, strategies going the wrong way? And these are all things that are tied to intuition, believe it or not.
Right.
And so when I look at even some of the podcast guests I've had marketing experts, copywriting experts, artificial intelligence experts, sales experts, and they all agree that it starts with intuition before anything else gets done.
Right. Well, yeah, very powerful. Very, very powerful. So, is it courses that you do? Are you just selling your book? Like, how can people work with you one-on-one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So typically they come in with I get a call to work one-on-one. And then it all depends upon, again, how much time and money they want to invest, and how urgent it is. So the ones that are really urgent, I find those are the ones that come on one-on-one coaching, because they would just want to stop their problems now.
Right.
And they want that individual, the individual advice for them, because as I said, the signals are very specific, and we work on that. The other thing I work on is we look at any kind of blockages in the past. So a lot of past things in the childhood or past relationships, what have you. And we look at releasing sort of the emotional turmoil in those specific things. And I use hypnotherapy to do that. And then once those are released, it really propels them to really listen to their intuition. There's also the courses. And so the courses are there as well. And so if they want to do sort of a self-study, some do the self-study and then come on to me one-on-one, or they're okay with the self-study. And then others just want to watch the content, right? And so I've got content on social media, or they listen to the podcast. And if they're able to do work on their own, fantastic. So again, it all depends on where they are, the urgency, the time commitment, the financial commitment, etc.
Okay, perfect. So what tips and suggestions would you have for everybody out there, and whatever's resonating with you, personal, professional, whatever you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first step when you're looking to tap into your intuition, as I said before, is look back. So if you look at those times, specifically when you look at the times where you ignored your intuition, because typically your positive signals when you're trusting your intuition is kind of, it's like a flow. There's no resistance, there's a pull. So when you're making a decision, and and you can tell now when you look back if it's the right decision, because of, you see what path you took. Then the moment that you made that decision at the start, you can say, yeah, wow, okay, so that was sort of, for me, a positive signal is just maybe like the field opening, visually, or things like that. The more important ones are the negative signals, because those are the ones that are saying that you're making a bad decision. So if you look back to a bad decision that you made, yet you knew what the answer was, or what the decision was that you should have made, what you want to do is go back and put yourself in that situation and think about what were you feeling in the moment, right? And what I want you to do is take stock of that negative signal, and that's one, and place it into, say, a negative signal basket, for example. What I want you to do is continue on, see if you can work backwards from that one, because normally there's the start of that decision. So the one that you can remember could be 5 decisions down. And your role is to see, okay, if I look at all the 5 decisions that resulted in whatever the situation was, now I know what 5 negative intuitive signals are. Right. And you want to keep doing that for as many times as you can, because then you get this basket of positive signals and you get this basket of negative signals. Now you've got signals that are very specific to you. And so the next decision that you make in the future, you'll be paying attention to the signals, and you're probably going to recognize one of the signals to say, yes, this is the right decision, or no, go the other way. And so what's really interesting with some of the people I've interviewed, and I've got some feedback afterwards, and I'm actually doing a number of round 2 interviews with some of them. I've got 4 or 5 of them. One, he was a boxer. And he ignored his intuition, and that's resulted in his 3 losses. There's only 3 losses in his professional career. He was good for a while, and then he got suckered $2,000 for an investment. And he texted me. I remember I was walking to Costco, and he texted me. He goes, Sunil, I ignored my intuition. And so we hopped on a call, and I said, Phil, why did you do that? You know about our talk. And he goes, yeah, but it sounded too good to be true. My intuition was saying I shouldn't have, and I did, and $2,000 gone. Another person, Tatiana, runs a swimwear company. And when she aligned with her intuition, with her purpose, she stopped looking at the numbers. And what she did is she changed her swimwear to recycled fish nets, because that was her purpose. And the number of clients buying, a number of customers reduced, but the ones that she gained were a lot more aligned with her purpose, and they were telling others. She actually tripled her revenues with less clients or less customers, because her intuition was aligned with her purpose. So these are sort of two things that happen to people when they start paying a little bit more attention. There are tangible benefits that you can get from that, right? And these are losing money, making money, being happier. Someone is in a career. He is so happy. He's finally smiling at home. His wife loves, him. The kids are not afraid of him anymore. These are intangible benefits,
Right, right.
right? So these are the things that can happen when you start, trusting your intuition.
I love that. So everybody start trusting yourselves.
Absolutely. Start now, because, and some of these decisions are going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Some of the people, there are going to be some people you're going to have to move away from your life, but you got to take a hard stance and make those hard commitments. And the uncomfortableness is because of fear, right? We're so stuck sometimes in our habits, and the fear of change or the fear of unknown is not so good. But remember, you've got a positive intuitive signal saying that that's the direction you need to go to. So it really shouldn't be fearful, right? You're coming in your own way, right? And so shed whatever you need to shed, because whatever opens up are the doors of opportunity in whatever part of your life that's going to come up, and that's how you go down the path to success. And if you listen to any of the podcast episodes of some of these major people online, I mean, they're all talking about getting in touch with yourself, purpose, a sense of self, listen deep, and I'm listening to all these guys, and they're all speaking the same language that I'm speaking. And some of them are actually coming now on board as to be a podcast guest of mine. I've even had someone who was she got involved in human trafficking. I've had a 3-hour interview with her. I've got someone who actually was on the Space Shuttle Challenger. He's coming on as a guest on my podcast. Someone who almost died from COVID-19. And the message that we have is that this is how you trust your intuition and get out of these situations. So start now, right? So you don't get into these situations.
Exactly. Love it. Love it. So you also really feel strongly about giving back to society, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
that through, sharing or being a role model for your family,
Yep.
things that trickle up. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so obviously through my daughter, that's her project. So that's one way of giving back. But the other way that I give back is anybody who's looking for help and they're just down and out. I'll always reach out. I've been on a campaign. I've sent probably close to 3,000 messages now on Facebook and Instagram during the COVID situation, just to find out how things are going. I've hopped on the call with 3 or 4 of them to coach them out of that. I've had even the one with the victims of human trafficking. We're looking at working on a program where anybody who the police have identified as a victim, I'm going to give them the course for free and a coaching session for free. These are things that I'm constantly trying to do. I had an offer to put out to the military because they're hard hit. So I've offered some coaches for free there, coaching and also courses for free there. So, and the more avenues I can do like this for other people, because in the end, the whole goal is to change people's lives for the better, and that's my purpose. So if I can do it through people who really need the help when they can, absolutely.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for doing that and making an impact on people.
Thank you.
We really never know how much of an impact we're making, but you know that you're making a huge difference in people's lives and being able to help them go forward and to trust themselves and to do what they're passionate about. So thank you for doing that.
No problem. And I'll just give you a quick story about someone who actually just through my podcast. So this was someone who had ignored her intuition time and time again. Got involved with an abusive ex-boyfriend, 3 kids, homeless 3 times, didn't trust the system. And a friend of hers visited her one evening and said, listen, there's this podcast by Sunil, Godse. You might want to listen to some of the things on intuition to better your life. Right. She ended up that evening watching my TEDx talk and going through a number of podcasts. That night, a voice had told her to go onto social media, which she was always off of. And she now knew that was an intuitive signal. She gets on to social media, and there was a picture of her daughter who was a minor surrounded by drugs and alcohol.
Oh, no.
With her ex-boyfriend. Another voice told her to pick up the phone, to phone the police. These are people she didn't trust, but she now knew that her intuition is saying, do that. Picked up the phone, and the police were able to get that picture taken off, arrest the ex-boyfriend, and bring her daughter back to safely in her arms.
Wow.
All within a few hours. And I got an email from her the next day saying how much my podcast had impacted her life. And that's my purpose right there.
Yeah. I love that. And like you said, one person at a time, and The more stories you get to give feedback on, the better, of course.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
to know that you're on that right mission, and that you're helping people, you're making a difference. So
Yes, thank
good
you.
for you for doing that. So how do people actually get a hold of you?
There's a lot of ways. Intuitionology.com is my website. There's the business side is sunilgodse.com. Then I've got Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I've got all those handles. So there's lots of ways to get a hold of me. YouTube, I've got a YouTube channel. So tons of ways to get a hold of me. So my phone number is also my website, and shoot me a DM if you need some help.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing with us today and for doing everything that you do for everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity, Randy.
My pleasure. And we will have all your contact info on the page when we send it out. So you guys will have access to all the different ways to connect with Sunil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you again.